You know, I've always thought that tax reform takes three basic steps. The first is the actual beginning of the reform and the vision of where we go with that reform, which the vast majority of studies that have ever been done about not only Kentucky's tax system but those of our competing states shows that the best way to do tax reform is to broaden our consumption tax and to lower the income tax, both corporate and personal. And in doing those, you stop penalizing people for working. You stop penalizing people for being productive, and that's the vision. And it is a process. I believe somebody told me it took from start to finish. It took 14 years for Tennessee to fully implement their elimination of an income tax. I know that Indiana began their reforms about 12 years ago, and they are still in the process of it. And so it is a slow process, but it's one that you got to stay committed to. It's one that you got to continue to move forward. It's one that you got to continue to relieve tax burdens, and so that's important. And as revenues continue to grow, I think it's equally important for us to remain more physically diligent than ever. We've got to continue to make sure that we stay focused on the ultimate goal of where tax reform needs to be, which is to make Kentucky the best place in the world to build a business and to raise a family. And again, just like if we had blinked on fully funding the pension this year, I think that things start to ring hollow. And if we miss an opportunity as revenues continue to grow, if we miss an opportunity to continue to relieve the tax burden on working families in Kentucky, I think that we will have missed an opportunity to do something really special here.
So outside of any cleanups to the current bill you've already passed, in 2019, do you see the legislature progressing in terms of tax reform? And if so, what issues do you feel that you might tackle? Maybe lowering the income tax again, sales tax? What issues do you see you'll address?
You know, I think that we're going to have to be very, very careful about overestimating success. I think that clearly the economy in Kentucky is on fire. We have record low unemployment, record job creation, record investment in Kentucky business, and this past month we saw record receipts into the general fund. We've got to be careful not to assume that that's a trend. We've got to make sure that this is a stable thing and that it's something that is going to be long-term growth. That means that I believe that we will absolutely. I think that most economists have agreed already that we are going to end this year with a surplus. We're going to go into next session with a projected surplus over what we've budgeted. And I think that we have to be very, very careful not to immediately start playing Santa Claus. We will have two options, actually three options. I think one will be to go ahead and continue to affect changes in tax policy. With the opportunity of the fact that we will have more money than we need for the very first time since I've been here going into session, and the other thing, we could go to the other extreme and open up the budget and start appropriating money, and I'm not sure that either one of those are appropriate if unless we've discovered a fully definable trend in revenues. I think that we've got to be very careful. I've compared this last 2 years to being a little bit like an entrepreneur. We've done a lot of things. We've built a lot of structures that have put Kentucky on a path to success, making it more business friendly, making it a better place to invest, making it a better place to build a business. And now we have to switch to being more managerial about that. It is time that we sit back and we maybe we do look at how things are working and we start managing government as opposed to building a system. We start managing what we've built and make sure that we're not changing things just for change's sake.
Do you feel that now that the door has been opened on tax reform, and obviously a lot of this depends on the elections and who is in the General Assembly come January, but do you feel that you might lose any momentum if you don't continue the tax conversation now since it's already started?
I do. I think that we have to continue. Again, we have to continue to look at the long-term prospects here. And we have to look at the long-term prospects and the long-term goal of continuing to reduce individual and corporate income tax. We have to look at the other things that we can do to repeal some barriers to business. There's some really repressive taxes out there. The LLET tax, the bank franchise tax. Those are things that are really harmful to Kentucky businesses. Inheritance tax, it's something that's really harmful to Kentucky farmers and farm families that are asset dependent. And so I think that those are things that we have to keep our eye on. But at the same time, I don't think that we can lose sight of the fact that Kentucky is still a high tax state. And we need to continue to relieve the tax burden on Kentucky families.